Okay, what you should be able to see in here is what will happen when the Thermogel hardens. This is an example of a not maintained nozzle. When it gets to this state, that if you were to try and use this right now, my assumption would be that it's not going to work. So this is what you want to avoid. And how can you avoid that? How I do it and how it's always worked for me, well, I've never let it get to this state, but how I avoid this is just, like I say, when you're done at your incident and your equipment is going to sit, get the air compressor and blast out whatever particles or hardened up chunks you see in there in this part and in this part. But however, if that doesn't get done for whatever reason and you end up with something like this may be too hard to just blow out with air. I mean, you can try picking it out and getting it out and then maybe test your nozzle. And if that doesn't work, then you're going to want to go with taking these two screws out. You just need a simple Allen wrench. Take these screws out. They just screw right out. You'll find two big BBs here that allow this to sit and swivel, and you can pull this thing completely out. There's about 20 to 22 BBs up here that once these are out, this little hole, you can dump the BBs out. All of the BBs. You want to keep track of all of the BBs. And you can pull this out and settle both of these in a saltwater solution. It may take a day, it may take 2 days. Everything will loosen up, it'll come out of here, and you should be able to go ahead and use your nozzle again. You'll be able to look at it and tell if everything has loosened up and come out. You can just simply, after the day or two of sitting in the saltwater solution, you can simply pick it up, maybe have a look at it. If it looks good, put it back together, go ahead and test it. And that should remedy all of your cleanup issues. This part of the nozzle, the metering system has been unscrewed. What you do here to pull this part out for cleaning purposes is you just, again, use your hex screwdriver or your Allen wrench, unscrew it. There's some BBs in here again. You dump the BBs out, keeping track of all the BBs that fall out because you need them to keep this adjustable. This will then pop out and leave a large opening here, obviously, and here that you can either use an air compressor to clean this stuff out, or you can soak it in a saltwater solution. Again, the air compressor way is the easiest way to do it. But if you want to take extra care and soak it in a saltwater solution, that's okay too. I just find it to be effective and easier to use the air compressor system to clean it out. This part also unscrews, but no real cleanup should be needed on this because, again, once finished on a day of work, whether it be training or on an incident, you can just open this bail maybe to a quarter, make sure your flow of gel is off. On the adduction system, you got your indicator, turn it to off, and you'll have just water. So blast with this a quarter open, blast some water through the nozzle, clean off the top. That'll clean out whatever's in here and what's on here, and you'll be good to go. Information I should offer is one thing that's important is when you have your assembly of the Thermogel system, they should have quick connects on there, or it'll just screw on either way. But you want to make sure that this piece is screwed on tight, that this is locked in securely, and then this piece needs to be tightly screwed into here. What allows this, the venturi creates a vacuum which allows the gel to be sucked up through the hose and into the nozzle. If these things aren't tight and this isn't screwed into here tight, the vacuum could be compromised, which will impede the fluid flow of gel. When you're flowing gel, you should have a solid stream going through this nozzle. If it's not solid, I would check all of your connections and make sure everything is tight and secure. That should remedy some of the flow issues, as far as, well, I should say some of the adduction issues. Another thing that's very important with gel, with Thermogel, is you need to maintain it, and the maintenance of Thermogel, you need to shake it at least twice a year. I recommend once before fire season and once sometime after fire season. Now I know a lot of times throughout this massive county you've got caches of it in warehouses or what have you, and you know, chances are it's not getting shaken in there. So it could have been sitting for 3 months, 6 months, a year, who knows how long. If it sits for a super long time like that, a year plus, the gel is going to, much like paint, it will separate. The magic, if you will, of the gel, the super absorbent polymers, sink to the bottom, and everything, it just separates. So you've got to re-emulsify it, and the easiest way, I should say, to do it is just to turn it upside down and shake it this way on each of the corners. And if it has indeed completely separated, you'll feel it shake loose. You'll feel it bottom heavy, and you'll feel yourself shaking it and kind of getting it back together. If you're aware of it sitting unshaken for a year or longer, you want to keep that in the back of your head when you're actually using it, because when it separates like that, it sometimes can be hard to re-emulsify. So if you're having problems getting a gelatinous solution, that could be one of the issues, and you just want to make sure that it's shaken well. So that's probably the easiest way to make sure that your gel isn't going to fail you. That's one of the big things I've noticed out in the field, is people aren't aware that it needs to be shaken. It most definitely does need to be shaken. If it sits for a long time without being shaken, it's just not going to work. I always say, if possible, give it a good quick shake before you use it. What isn't okay is leaving it on your engine and thinking the bouncing around throughout wherever you're driving is going to cause the agitation needed. It won't. You've got to, unfortunately, you've got to do that. But you'll maybe get a bit of needed exercise. Who knows? Anyway, that's pretty simple to do, and that'll help with the flowing of the product. One other thing you can do to mix the product if it's been sitting for quite a while is you can use a paint stir. A simple paint stir can be found at any hardware store, and if you have powered drills, electrical or battery powered drills would be fine. Usually they just stick into the end. You find them at a paint store obviously as well. You just stick it into the end of the drill and stir it up real good. What it's particularly good for, that method, as opposed to shaking it, is if you know it's sat for a long time, a year plus. Like I had mentioned, if it sits for that long unmaintained, it can be hard to re-emulsify, and sometimes maybe even a vigorous shaking of it might not completely emulsify the product again. So the paint stirrer can come in handy in that situation. So just another little tip, little FYI, that will, between the shaking or the paint stirring, you should be in good shape.